I think this is one of the best patches Blizzard has come out with ever. Oh man, what a week. Can we just say that? What an exhausting, tiring week. Holy shit. We'll start recording. David Attenborough, I will do a bit of silence, and then I'll start. And look, I'm a pro at this. You're gonna be super duper impressed. Okay. Hey guys, this is Merps here. Wanted to talk a little bit about the 18.6.1 patch, which dropped a few days ago. Had a lot of duels and BG changes. I've actually had the opportunity to play a lot of BG, so I can give you some feedback with a lot of experience and a lot of climbing. So let's begin. But before we begin, remember to like, comment, and subscribe so that we grow and get money and give you content. Things. Let's talk. Alright, so they did a duels balance patch, and I thought this was good. First of all, Mr. Bigglesworth has been removed from the active treasures pool. I was a little bit disappointed in this because I was so curious about what the secret interaction was. There had to have been a secret interaction, and I guess I was wrong. Because Mr. Bigglesworth was a very bad kitty and snuck into the pool. He didn't have an interaction. He was just a 0 mana 1/1. It was actually just a troll. Oh man, I wonder how many people fell for it because they thought the way that I thought. Oh well. Party Portal went from 6 health to 4 health. 1 mana whenever you cast a spell, summon a random minion of the same cost. I don't know why they nerfed this. This wasn't OP. I really don't get it. But anyways, I didn't pick it then. I'm not going to pick it now, really. Amalgamate. Used to cost 1, now cost 0. Destroy all friendly minions. Summon an amalgamation with their combined attack and health. The problem with Amalgamate was never the mana cost. In fact, in duels, you have so many ways to reduce the cost of stuff. So is it a little bit better? Yes. Does it really matter? No. The problem with Amalgamate is you don't want to do this effect in duels. You don't want to consolidate your board and put it into one because of stuff like devolving missiles, silence effects, freeze. They can just ignore it and taunt it. It's not good. You want a wider board most of the time, like a varied board with different HPs, different abilities. This just doesn't work out. Spyglass used to cost 2, now it costs 1. Put a copy of a random card in your opponent's hand into yours. It costs 3 less. I think I've taken this once and I've seen it once as well because you can just get presented with really bad options. But the problem is it's not card advantage and it's random. So if it was 2 cards, for example, it might be okay. It would be fine. But your opponent and you have some really good cards and some just average cards. So if you hit the treasure, if you hit the game-winning card, that's great, but not really anything. Canopic Jars went from 4 to 5. Give your minions Death Rattle, summon a random legendary minion. Jars was good. Jars was used. Was it too powerful? I don't think so. But I'm okay with this change. This might have been restricting design a little bit. This might have been a little bit too powerful. It was on the cusp of being a little bit too powerful. So this is fine. I understand. Wish goes from 11 to 10. Now you can actually use it. Fill your board with legendary minions. Fully heal your hero. I don't think I've ever seen this. I never saw it before. People just didn't take it. Maybe you take it now. The fact that they made it 11 is just astounding. Pure Cold. I've seen this a few times. It used to be 6 mana, now 5 mana. Deal 8 damage to the enemy hero and freeze it. I don't exactly know why they buffed this. It was pickable before, kind of. And I'm okay with the buff. I'm just curious about why exactly this change, but I'm alright with it. Passive treasures, crystal gem. So it turned from on your first turn, you have 2 mana crystals, into on your first 2 turns, you have 1 extra mana crystal. This is a little bit better. This gives you more flexibility, whereas you had to do a lot on your first turn. You had to have the perfect mulligan, and here it gives you a little bit more wiggle room to play with. But crystal gem was never anything good. It was a very underwhelming treasure. Demon Hunter's treasure got nerfed. Starting treasure gets nerfed. Summoning Ritual went from 4 to 5. We know what Summoning Ritual is. If you've played Duels at all, you've seen this treasure getting played. Demon Hunters only want one thing, and it's disgusting. Summoning Ritual on 4. Now it's on 5. You summon 3 demons from your deck. They're dormant for 2 turns. This is a huge deal. Because for them to, and I understand, like, if you are able to make it cheaper through something like goggles, or whatever, right? Scrying orbs and everything, it's still very good, but you need that. And in the beginning of the game, in the beginning of the runs, it's definitely a lot weaker because it's a turn later, and the Demon Hunter has to figure out what to do for those turns, and the Demon Hunter can definitely die. So this was a good change, I think. Demon Hunters were really annoying with turn 4 Summoning Ritual. Rogue got buffed. Gosh, thank you. Rogues were not really pickable. They just weren't. It used to be the treasure was give your weapon +2/+1, combo also give poisonous. Now it's give your weapon +2/+2 and poisonous. This was just such a bad treasure, and anything can make it a little bit better, and this is better. But really, let's look at the hero power now. So same hero power, except now it costs 1, right? You equip a 1/2 dagger, and if you combo equip a 2/2 dagger. This being a little bit better is fine, but it's actually so much better because this is cheaper as well. So these kind of play into each other. And the fact that this is cheaper makes this so much better. The fact that this is so much better makes this so much better as it's cheaper. So, fantastic. Really, really, really good. Shaman. Rip. You no longer summon 2 totems if you're overloaded, with one of them being a non-basic totem. Now, if you're overloaded, you just summon the non-basic totem instead. So needed. Shamans were ridiculously overpowered because they could build a board out of just hero power, while other people had to use cards to deal with their hero powers. And that's a huge advantage. That's just huge. So, happy they did this. Warlock, Keck W. Went from 2 mana to 1 mana. Look at up to 4 cards in your hand and discard 1, then draw 1 card. This is just so determinant on what sets are in right now. Whether you have the discard synergy or not. And right now you don't really at the start. And if you don't have it at the start, it's hard to snowball into it. Warrior, hero power, now costs 1. This is good. Warriors were okay-ish before. And this being at 1 instead of 2 is a huge deal now. So, really good for warriors to have this flexibility. Because if you played warrior, you'll know that part of the problem is this does cost, or the old hero power just costed a little bit too much, and it stopped your turns from being as good as they could be. And this is a huge difference. Okay. I like the changes that they're doing overall to duels, addressing the underpowered classes, and really nerfing shamans, because shamans were really annoying, and they had a little bit too much. So this is good. Let's talk about BGs. BGs is the big update, and I've been playing a ton of BGs. I've been ranking up a little bit. I think we're I forgot what it was, 124 on the leaderboard as of this recording. But I've played a lot within this patch, so a lot of this isn't just me guessing, it's me from my experience, and I can tell you guys, out of my like 10 hours playing it, how I feel about everything. So Nefarian has been removed. Rip Nefarian. He just doesn't have a role in this meta anymore. There was a point about a year ago where he was #1 in Battlegrounds, arguably #1, and the meta has just moved away from him. Maybe they'll put him back in with a new hero power, but his current hero power just isn't good enough. Okay, we have Queen Wagtoggle. Haven't talked about her a lot. So her hero power change. It used to be 1 mana to give a friendly minion of each type +2 attack, and now it's +2/+1. This is so good. I played with Wagtoggle twice. I got first with her once, and the other time I got like third. This is kind of like a new Tyrion-ish, and I've seen people play her in different ways. I choose to play her, and I think we'll get more information about optimal playstyles. I play her kind of like a Reform Curve, in that I want to hero power every single turn because it's just a little bit too strong. So I'm picking up all the tier 1s of the menageries that are available in that game, and then I just do the Reform Curve, and then afterwards I try to get the Brand, the Light Fang, and like the stats that you're gaining in the early and mid game, you can take that like 1-2 turn hit in order to get to tier 5 to try to find the menagerie stuff. And there are some things which you're happy to replace. For example, beasts are in. Even if you have like the let's say you have like a 9/6 beast at that time, but you find a 2/4 Hydra, yeah, it's time to replace that. And it's not uncommon for you to replace a couple of the things you've been buffing, if not almost all the things you've been buffing, for stronger menagerie things. That's fine. But in the 2 games that I played her, I've only replaced about half. So then, for example, Murlocs, any Murloc will do. There's no Murloc with any real special abilities. So your tier 1 Murloc, that's just as good as any other Murloc. That's fine. My mech was the Micro Machine, and I just kind of kept that the entire time because it just gave like a buff here or there, and I ended up tripling it. So that's fine as well. But she's just very strong. This is a lot of tempo, a lot of stats for the early game, for the mid game, and in the late game, sometimes Menagerie just won't do it, but she's really good now. If you haven't played her yet, definitely play her. But I would say the Reform Curve, in my opinion, is pretty strong with her because you definitely want to hero power every single turn. Curator, my boy. Wow, look at this. Instead of a 1/1 Amalgam, you have a 1/2 Amalgam. Why couldn't you do more, man? Why can't you do more for the Curator? I love the Curator. Let's look at my stats for a second. Dude, the Curator is still #3 on my played. I mean, this is kind of old. I don't have any of the new heroes. You can tell I don't play Battlegrounds that much because of this, but dude, I love Curator. My win rate is barely above. He's just not a good hero, man. He's just not that great, but I love playing Curator. Doesn't really move the needle. Oh well. Hook Tusk. We remember the OG Hook Tusk and how broken it was. Then they nerfed her. And now her hero power costs a mana. Remove a friendly minion. But now you can discover a random one from a tier lower. So they first made it such that you get a random one. And now they're like, okay, we're going to revert it back to the way it was, but now it costs mana. Yeah, the problem is just like this costing mana is a little bit problematic. It's once again the meta has moved away a little bit from what Hook Tusk is doing here, because you have heroes like Jandis, right? Like, look what this does versus what Jandis is doing. And Jandis is just much better. And I understand, it's like, well, isn't Jandis OP and kind of shouldn't be in the game? I understand, but Jandis is in the game. So when you look at what Jandis is kind of doing, and you look at what Hook Tusk is trying to do, it's like, oh, man, that's rough. Rat King. Old hero power is give a minion +1/+2. Now it's +2/+2. I got a second place with Rat King yesterday. The plus attack matters, but the problem is still you got to get lucky, and I got lucky with Rat King. But if you don't get lucky, well, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a real bad time. Rakanishu. I don't know what they were thinking of for the original hero power. 2 mana to give a random friendly minion stats equal to your Tavern tier. So this means you're in Tavern 2, it gives a minion +2/+2. You're in Tavern 5, gives a minion +5/+5. Now you can target it. I have played Rakanishu twice since the patch. I have lost a lot of MMR due to Rakanishu. He's just not good. Stats and not giving you stats and not giving you the ability to either find triples, capitalize off of like doing some econ game. It's just not enough. Your hero power has to be either an insane amount of stats, for example, Ragnaros, who's not tippy top tier, but still pretty good, right? You pick him. So that's the thing. Like, if you are doing tempo, man, you got to be really hardcore tempo, like a Ragnaros. And if you're doing econ, well, that's kind of the name of the game. All the econ heroes are at the very top. So you have the Jandis, you have the Omu and everything, and then also, yeah, like if you're a tempo hero, you want to make sure that you're like, I can't believe I'm saying this, a Wagtoggle. There you go. That's a good tempo hero. George got his hero power buffed to 2. Guys, remember when George cost 4? I remember. This is pretty good. I've seen good results from George. I haven't picked him yet, but this is really nice, actually. And George was in a fine spot before, and now that this costs 2, this is just real nice. This is extraordinarily nice. It's like, think of it this way. At any given moment, you can buy, once per turn, a minion that says, give any minion Divine Shield, and you're selling it. That's effectively it, right? You buy it for 3, you sell it for 1, that's 2 mana. And that's what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing. And that's really good for you to say at every point of the game, on every single turn, I'm just buying a minion that says, give something Divine Shield. Super solid. Ysera. Dreads' favorite hero. God, that man. His decision making. Now, Bob always offers an extra dragon whenever the tavern is refreshed. I think this is pretty strong. I haven't had the chance to pick Ysera yet, really, but I've seen some decent results from Ysera, and this is pretty huge for her consistency. So huge for consistency. I'm curious to see how this works out and where her placement is, because I haven't played her yet, but I like this. I think this will make her actually relevant. Oh! Alright, so they removed the Great Akazamzarak because you can exploit this. They wanted to make this his hero power 1 and remove Effigy from the secret pool, and this allowed effectively people to cheese their way into at least second place. You can still get it from Finley, I believe, but they removed the actual hero for now, so we'll see. We'll see what they do with it. Gallicron. We get back to Gallicron, and Gallicron is super OP now. Instead of it costing his hero power costing 1 and freezing it, you don't freeze anymore. You can still manually freeze, and it costs 0. This is so good. I played Gallicron twice. I got first easily once, and then the other time I got like second or third, I forget. But your access to 5 drops and 6 drops early on is insane. It's crazy, crazy good. And I've seen on the other side, when I'm not Gallicron, but there are Gallicrons in the lobby, they tend to do pretty well. Tess. Now instead of just refreshing Bob's Tavern with minions from your last opponent's warband, which means they have 7 minions, they have a brand, you have a chance of getting that brand. You're not guaranteed to get it. No matter, especially if you're only on, let's say, like, tier 3, tier 4, whatever. Now, refresh Bob's Tavern with your last opponent's warband. You get that brand. Whatever you want from them, you get that board. So it's a lot more powerful. And I've seen Tess do well, but the stats haven't come out, or I haven't looked at the stats yet, and I have not had the opportunity to really test out Tess yet. Elise, the map now costs 2, which is down from 3. I played Elise like 3 times. I keep getting Elise since the patch has come out. She's okay. She's alright. The map makes a huge difference, especially on turn 3. And for a lot of the leveling curves, it smooths it out really, really well. Now when you're like leveling from 3 to 4 and from 4 to 5, those turns are really, really smooth. So you're just smoothing out a lot of the things which were awkward for her before, and now you're just like, oh, this works now. Okay, so I like her. I don't think she's like top tier or anything, but these small little improvements do help. Lord Baroff now gives her gold back on ties. Good. I played Barov once since the patch hit. It's tough. The toughest thing is you have to pick Barov before you see what heroes are in the game. And that's important because some lobbies with their hero selections are really easy to look at matchups, and some are pretty hard. Some are really hard. So, for example, when you are Lord Barov, what you want to have are stuff like you want a Yogg, you want Rafam, what else is there? Millhouse. Sorry, I was thinking of Millhouse. And you want like Millhouse as well in your lobby because those are ones which on certain turns, especially in the early game, it's so easy to guess if that character is going to win or not, or at least tie. So the problem with Lord Barov I found is that you just have to commit to him, and then suddenly you see stuff like, Patchwork and Elise in your game, and you're like, why? Why does this have to happen? And it's just a lot harder to guess. Minion updates. Wrathweaver went from a 1-1 to a 1-3. This is a huge change. I think demons still need to be buffed overall, as in reworked a little bit, because right now they just don't work that well in today's meta. But this is a huge change. This means that you can actually start with Wrathweaver and not totally tank, not feel terrible about it. So this is definitely good. And it also means if you're on tier 2 and just buying minions, Wrathweaver plus any demon, previously you might think about like a Wrathweaver and an Imprisoner, and now if you see Wrathweaver and an Imprisoner, hey, that's really good. That's a 3-5 and a 3-3 with Death Rattle. Super nice. Yoho Ogre went from tier 3 to tier 2 and lost 3 health. So much better. This was always very underwhelming for a tier 3 unit, so this is good, and it gives pirates a little bit more of a snowball. What you want to do when you help out tribes, I talked about this with Adulta before, you don't necessarily want to target the high-tiered scaling units. What you want to do is make it easier to commit to that tribe early and make them a little bit more powerful in the early game so that they can start the snowball and then get rewarded with those units that are still pretty decent. So if you kept on increasing the effectiveness of something like Eliza, that doesn't really do much because pirates are just really bad to commit to early game, and you might never get that Eliza. So improving early game pirates, or improving any early game for subpar tribes, is definitely the way to go. So good direction. Iron Sensei went from 4 to 3. Such a necessary change. Iron Sensei was ridiculously overcosted, and just once you're on tier 4, sometimes I would pick up an Iron Sensei, but that's tough. That's super duper tough. And Iron Sensei is also a great Daryl target now. If not a target, something that you pick up and you keep on your board as Daryl. This is exactly the kind of stuff that you want. Just stuff that, like, okay, here's a buff, here's a buff, here's a buff. Really nice. And it's not like it's broken, because it just keeps on giving +2/+2 every single turn. And in today's meta, that's very manageable. So, good change. Like it. South Sea Strongarm, the buff, or like, you know, the stat buff, really the health buff that pirates have, went from tier 4 to tier 3. Stats got -1/-1. Once again, just giving consistency to pirates, giving them access to earlier growth and snowball mechanics. So really nice. Rip Snarl Captain went from a 3/4 to a 4/5. It matters sometimes. It does. And these are all, once again, small buffs. Blizzard understands this principle that I'm talking about, where you don't buff the best things. You don't buff the engines. You buff everything around them so that it's much easier for you to commit to them. And I've played Pirates a few times since the patch. Pirates are okay now. They're not your first choice lots of times, but they're good. And if the game pushes you that way, you can secure a top 4, top 3. I haven't won with Pirates yet, but I've done well with them. I've gained MMR with them, and lots of times that's just enough. So that's good. Oh, Lightfang, my boy. Finally, Lightfang goes back to, I don't know if it's his or her, but its previous glory of +2/+2. Menagerie is real now. Menagerie is super good from all of these changes. And this is... You're very happy to pick this up now, because you're more likely to start off as Menagerie, and then this is just a topper. So I love the change in Lightfang. This is necessary. If anything, it's significantly overdue. We've gone through many metas in which I wish Lightfang was +2/+2 so that it could help counteract or give a better option to just single tribe endgame comps, which have dominated for too long. Okay. Genie is now on tier 6. Genie just gets ping-ponged back and forth. But he didn't get the stats. He used to have more stats on 6, and then he went down to 5 and lost some stats, understandably. And then he got upgraded again, but he didn't get stats. Oh, it's so sad. So sad. He got, like, you know, he was... Basically, it was like he got demoted, and because he had less responsibilities, his salary went down. And they're like, oh, no, we're going to put you back in the managerial position that you were previously in, but we didn't bump your salary up. You got to feel bad for Genie, man. Also, there's, like, no reason to pick Genie now. Ever. He's a good buff when you have Rags and, you know, all of that stuff. Lieutenant Gar went from an 8/1 to a 5/1. This is a yikes. This is just Blizzard saying, we want elementals to not be as good. I understand. This is what Blizzard does. They say, okay, elementals, you had your chance to be OP. Now we want to nerf you just a little bit more than perhaps some people would like. I don't think a lot of people are complaining. But yes, Gar is a decent amount worse now. The difference between 5 attack and 8 attack is huge. Low Rag lost some stats from a 6/6 to a 4/4. Meh. This doesn't really matter, right? It matters a little bit, and in 1 out of every who knows how many games, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, Eliza, now instead of whenever a friendly pirate attacks, give all friendly minions +1/+1, it's give all friendly minions +2/+1. So it's reinforcing the idea of pirates are this board buffing attack aggro class. They're just buffing pirates in general, right? So they're buffing the kind of core snowball buff things, and they're saying, well, Eliza, you could be a little bit better too. They're just trying to improve pirates. I understand. Finally, Amalgamate. This was a little bit confusing for some people, but effectively you have one less adapt most of the time, because it used to say for each different minion type you have adapt randomly, Amalgamate counts itself. So if you have a board of all Murlocs and you drop an Amalgamate and there's no Bran on there, let's say, you get 2 adapts because it's counting the Murlocs that you have, and this is a thing. It's a beast, it's a dragon, whatever, but it only counts itself once, so it'll get 2 adapts. And now, if you're dropping on the same board, all Murlocs, you only get 1 adapt because the Amalgamate is not counting itself. So it says for each different minion type you have among other minions, adapt randomly. Most of the time, that means you are just missing 1 adapt, which makes a difference. Amalgamate was really powerful. It fit in basically almost every playstyle, but I think it was fair. I don't think a lot of people were saying Amalgamate is too frustrating like Holy Mackerel was. Holy Mackerel was too frustrating for too many people. And because they've just improved Menagerie so much by increasing everything else, they're like, okay, we're afraid Menagerie is just going to be a little bit too strong. So we'll improve all of the, we'll improve these Menagerie heroes like Rat King, Curator, Wag Toggle, and then improve these bad tribes like pirates, and we'll make mechs a little bit better in the early game as well. And we'll shave a little bit off of Menagerie's end game. I think that's more than fair. I think that's the way that you should do it. Spread out the love, spread out the stats and the power through everything. Front load it a little bit and take it away from the end. And it creates a smoother game. So I think this is one of the best patches Blizzard has come out with ever. Just gonna say that. Before I played it, disclaimer, I haven't played Duels. I've only played BG since this has come out. But I thought this was a really good patch, and then once I started playing it, I really liked it. Menagerie is super viable. There's just a lot of stuff to figure out, and yes, there's still some big swings. There are still some ways for people to get a little bit too much stats for people's likings on any given turn, but the meta seems a lot healthier overall. I think we're moving in the right direction, and these changes, I think, shows that Blizzard knows what's going on and they're working towards it, and we do have to be a little bit patient. I'm going to be quite patient from this point for at least a little bit of time. I can't promise everything, but mainly because this patch shows that they get it. They understand people's frustrations and they're working on it. And for some of these things, is it at the point where we exactly want it to be? No, but I have a lot of faith in them now because all these changes show that they know the direction that the game has to go in and the problems that have caused a lot of people to be frustrated. So, great patch. I'm very happy about it. I played a few games. Okay, that's it. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys. Bye-bye. Perfect. Nailed it.